Okay, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to those to those who came new today, and good morning to everybody who was here already yesterday. One practical issue: those who came very late, I would kindly ask you to register. Be prepared, even a short map with the program and so on, and with your name. Could you kindly prior to the coffee break register, so we knew who actually has joined us. Um, After the yesterday session, which was very much focused on our experience of the Lean CC project, which was aiming at which aimed during the last 2 days, 2 years, on building on networks between European and European, Asian and African universities on the argument on climate change, and on the we discussed, presented the strategies we had to establish networks to improve access to climate change education and discuss the contents. So we did this in interaction with those who have different experiences in the same pursuing the same efforts, like NatureLink project presented by Hilda Marino, which has been run until 2009, which is called Clima. We had Oliver Love, who presented the Sustain project. He's coming from the Wuppertal Institute. Unfortunately, he's leaving today, so he is not joining us this morning. And we also discussed some very specific climate change issues and strategies, even strategies connected to formation projects as PhD courses and so on, mainly related to Indonesia, where 2 of our partner universities are situated. Okay, all the registrations, and this is also a privacy issue, so I announced it in the morning, are registered and can be seen on YouTube, either in direct streaming or subsequently as registrations. The morning session today is going a bit further to our project, which is finishing. The LeanCC project is finishing with this month. It has lasted for 2 years, and what we wanted to do is to have a look at what are the real needs for the practice of planning and decision making in climate change, on climate change issues, from the educational side. What sort of what experiences are made, and what sort of competences could be required? So this is perhaps a question that somehow could be addressed by every contribution, at least having a reflection on that. Thank you. So I give the word to Martin, who is the chair, and to Martin, who is giving our first presentation. Is that true? No, Lucas, sorry.
Thank you, Margareta. You made my job already quite easy. I thought I had to introduce the second day a little bit, but you did that already quite good. So my task mainly to keep track of time, and of course I did do a little research into the presenters, and I think the first session we have a nice mix of people from representing or working with local, regional, national government, public, private organizations, NGOs. And the first one is Lucas de Moncuy from the, and do you pronounce it as ICLEI, or do you have a other nice acronym, ECLAI? And I looked it up at the internet. Obviously, it's the Local Governments for Sustainability. Was founded already in 1990 at the as at that time the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, International Association of Local Governments and National Regional local government organizations which have a commitment to sustainable development. And you, and I hope that the internet is still up to date. It says that you are managing the low carbon and urban development initiative, and you were there labeled as a climate change professional. That's, as a geographer, I like very much, with a multidisciplinary background in environmental management, business administration, and finance. So I think you could have a lot to say about the topic. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Martin. That's true. So I could speak about my own experience as well, because I graduated not long ago, and I know how you have to shape your profile to fit in this topic, or to work in the field of climate change. But here I'm going to talk about our experience at ICLEI. So first, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here to open this second day of this conference on climate change. My name is Lucas de Moncuy from ICLEI. I work at the Carbon Center for Local Climate Action and Reporting, and together we are going to look into the needs of local government in terms of skills to deal with climate change. Yes. Thank you very much. And before we get started, I would like first to thank, on behalf of ICLEI and of our members, the IHS for organizing the conference, and the Venice International University for hosting it, and of course the European Commission for supporting the whole initiative. Climate change is one of our core activity at ICLEI, and we value very much that type of opportunity which serves our mandate to build the capacity of our members in the field of climate change. So my presentation will follow the following structure. So first I will go through what we do exactly at ICLEI. I think it is important because ICLEI exists because there is a lack of capacity from local government. So if we look at ICLEI itself, you will also understand the type of skills that local government actually don't have, and why they rely on us for a part of their activities in the field of climate change. And then we will go through three examples, or it's not really case studies, but I divided the local governments into three sections, and we'll see how they each approach climate change in a different way based on their specific context. And finally, we'll go more into the very specific skills that future professional like you would need in order to work for local government, and also what the trends will be. So what can be expected in the future in local government. So ICLEI is the largest network on sustainability. As mentioned by Martin before, we were created in 1990, so even 2 years before the first Rio conference. And we actually coordinate and promote and try to have the local climate action recognized at the global level. So there is first a work of knowledge sharing between our members, and also promotion. So not just between the members, but from the members to the national or international level through our work. And we have the possibility to influence the lives of millions of people, literally, because altogether our cities, our local governments represent more than 500 million people. To emphasize the role of cities in climate change, let me just say that today cities and urban areas are responsible for 75% of greenhouse gas emissions, and energy consumptions, about the same figure. And cities are also home to more than 50% of the world population. We're going towards a 60% figure within the next 20 years, so it's it's a very impressive trend, and this is why in your work as professional in climate change, chances that you will work with local government at some stage in your career are very big. So in our everyday work, well, we work with local governments everywhere around the planet, and we have to adapt to the different contexts. So this is why we have not only the World Secretariat based in Bonn, but we have regional offices scattered around the world to take those specificities into consideration when implementing a climate change project, or when assisting local governments to implement this project. The World Secretariat is there to give a general orientation and to oversee that the approach and the strategy is the same throughout the organization, but the groundwork is done by regional offices, obviously. So we have at ICLEI 4 work streams. We first encourage local governments to tackle climate change. Obviously, we only have about 1,000. We have about 1,000 members, but if you look at the big picture, it's very small numbers, and we're still trying to convince other local governments to join the initiative. And of course, we are also advocating for local climate action at the international level. So we are a focal point in the United Nations Framework Conference on Climate Change. So we represent our members, but other local government networks as well there. And we're trying to have local climate action recognized by the international community as something that should be promoted. We think it is crucial because cities are the first to see the impact of climate change. They are on the ground. It's not like national government who will remotely see something happening in one region of a country. Local government authorities really see everything happening, and they have to react in real time. This is what we're trying to sell to the international community as well, so that they include us in the whole global climate regime that has to be negotiated. We also offer technical support, so we have our own experts, even though usually we provide more methodologies or tools, but we also have technical supports, can be urban planners, can be specialists in greenhouse gas emissions and so on. And of course we provide networking opportunities to our members, both for technical people and for mayors. As I said, this is very context-dependent work, so people working in this area will not have the same skill set depending on where they work in the world. Things that can affect the way local governments respond to climate change and the way they will ask for specific skill set from their staff are the following. It's quite straightforward, but of course it depends on economic development, on the framework, on the size of the local government. Institutional and government arrangements will play a role, of course. And then you have decentralization and the accountability, the fiscal framework, and also stability, overall stability of the country. Of course, the awareness of the population plays a role, and the capacity of the local government. The less capacity, the more work ICLEI will have to do, of course, and this is the type of thing that will really shape the whole framework for local government. So, as I said, I've tried to find what were the common ground as well for all local governments in the way they deal with climate change. And what we can say at this moment, it's that it's a very it's not an appropriate structure at the moment, because climate change at the local level usually is being dealt with by environment agencies. It's something, climate change is still an environmental problem. It doesn't cover doesn't take social or economic aspects into account. I mean, at the local level, of course, there is, you can see that it's being, those factors are being taken into consideration at the country level, but the local level is very much different because impacts cannot be seen as easily. Social and economic impact cannot be seen as easily as environmental impact. So local governments tend to respond to the first thing they see, and a few years ago it was environmental protection, and it's still the way it's integrated into the whole structure of local government. And it is unfortunately not integrated. So there is a slow paradigm shift. That's what we're trying to encourage local governments to do, to have this broader approach to climate change. And this is slowly taking place by the biggest cities, but small local governments don't have the capacity, and because also they don't really realize how everything is connected. It is obvious for us because we are professionals, but if you leave this issue on the ground, you only react to what you actually see in the short term, I have to mention as well. So now I wanted to really emphasize three different approaches. So if you have context, this is the three type context we are facing at ICLEI. So when we deal with local governments in developed countries, the context is the following. So we have high per capita emissions, technology and experts are there. They are available, and usually they are even working for the council or for the city. Resilient infrastructure are resilient, and there is a political commitment to do something about climate change as well. So it's quite an ideal framework. This is what's happening in Europe, in the US to some extent, and in some advanced countries in Asia. Less in Africa, obviously, even though Durban and Johannesburg are still quite advanced cities there. And the response is the following. As I said, it is led by energy department. So it's not ideal, but at least there is an internal capacity. And usually the teams there are made up of engineers, all type of engineers, and they deal mainly with renewable energy projects. Less on adaptation, because we don't see much, well, actually Venice is an exception, obviously, in Europe, but other than that, adaptation is less than focus for local government. So it's mainly really about renewable energy projects. If you work in Europe, this is the type of skills you could have. And then developing countries. So the context is exactly the opposite. No resilient structure, no access to technology. And the response is simply that people rely, or local governments rely on external experts, because those projects are being implemented by development agencies or international donors. This is how we work in developing countries. Usually we go through or in partnership with other agencies or other experts, very low capacity. And in BRICS, I have to bring this category as well, because this is very different there. They are now facing very strong pressure, both environmental but also from the community, to answer to climate change. And therefore they are building their internal capacity. And we are helping many local governments to build this capacity. We work with Buenos Aires, with other countries in Africa, especially South Africa, and in Southeast Asia, very important. Indonesia and India are quite committed to developing their capacity, and we have ongoing projects there. Now, if we really look into the type of skills that will be needed, it's more, it's still very general, but you will see that it still depends in which, on the context you will work. But as I said, in Europe, the development of sustainable energy action plan is very trendy at the moment. So if you're an engineer in that field, you would be able to work for a local government. Also, greenhouse gas inventories are becoming mandatory for local government. In Europe, it's already there. I mean, we have the Covenant of Mayors. It encompasses 4,000 cities, I think. It's still a commitment, so it's not compulsory, but it's a sign that it will be in the future. So if you have capacity, if you have skills in greenhouse gas emissions, in greenhouse gas accounting, you can use protocols, you can use calculators, you are able to understand reporting tools, you will do very well in this context. And also we are, well, the United Nations is actually now trying to shape a new mechanism to allow climate action to become measurable, reportable, and verifiable. This is what we call the MRV framework. And at ICLE, we're trying to understand what is being negotiated at the local, at the international level, and to integrate local action into this global framework. So this MRV framework will be as well developed at the local level and integrated. So if right now we are able to measure greenhouse gas emission reduction achieved by a project, we are somehow able to report those emissions if we have the platform. That's something that we provide at ICLE, for instance, or that Covenant of Mayors provide. But what is more difficult is to achieve the verification of a project. And this is where new skills are required, because the framework is being discussed now. So when it will come into place in a few years, probably 2015 will be a milestone, so we'll see what happens there. But if something happens, then be sure that skills in this work, in this field, will be valued. And of course, in adaptation, strong skills in disaster risk reduction and risk assessment are also very important. And very general skill set. Of course, project coordination, always important, especially because now cities have to implement projects with other partners, and we have feedback from contractors that say, when we talk to cities, we have like 3 or 4 entry points. We don't know who should be our main contact, and it's always a challenge for those contractors to implement project with big cities, because they have just too many people to contact. If there is a problem with a road, it's one department. If it's an environmental problem, it's another one. So if you have a broad understanding, and you can really try to cover a lot of ground if you have a multidisciplinary background, essentially. Financial management is also very important, also because now cities are developing their own emission trading scheme, for instance. So carbon finance is becoming very trendy. In China, the cities are developing those ETS locally with the help of central government, but it's there. And policy analysis, because we are now entering a new area, and we're trying to have new policy, new tools. So it's local governments. They are very small scale entities, and it's ideal for testing new policies. Actually, that's what they do. But they need people to do the research and propose new solutions. And then stakeholder involvement, very important, because 90% of local government emissions come from the community. And data management, as I said, for the reporting. Okay, I think I covered all my topic, but obviously we could have, if we had more time, we could cover a lot more. But thank you very much for the opportunity. So this is very good. I wish you some.
Thank you, Luca, for your interesting presentations. Where I think for our course, for our days today, I think the two very important messages are, first of all, you painted the global context and that there is a different needs, different approaches, different problems depending on the part of the world you're working on and you're dealing with. And secondly, well, of course, again, and I'm repeating myself as a geographer, stressing the fact that multidisciplinary approach is very important. And if you look at your last slide, that it's also when we are dealing with courses that we should not only confine ourselves to specific climate change and environmental issues, but also the simple management, financial issues, etc., that are important to make these kinds of projects a success. We decided to have a short round of questioning right after each presentation, so I would like to open up the floor for a few minutes of specific questions.
Hello, good morning. Since there are so many challenges that local governments and cities are facing, what is, in your opinion, the low-hanging fruit? What cities can easily reach, or what should they do? What's the first step, in your opinion?
So, within the European framework, what we see, what is a very common strategy for local governments is to implement renewable energy projects. Now, if we look at different countries, I guess sometimes that's because also they get subsidies to do so, and there is an incentive. So it can be also pressure from the community or a financial incentive from the central government. But renewable energy projects in Europe are very common. This is, yeah. In my opinion, it is a very narrow perspective, I think, because we work mainly on the offer side of the problem. So we don't work on the demand. On the demand side of the energy, we don't try to reduce the energy demand from the community. It's more about finding another energy source. It's not about reducing it would be more important as well to raise the awareness to the community that maybe they could simply use less energy or use more energy efficient appliances. So I guess renewable energy, it's a start, but there should be it should be accompanied by other initiatives like incentive to use more efficient appliances and not to spend the money that you save like that on other appliances. It's very tricky issue.
Good morning. It's always nice holding this microphone, although it makes no sound. Still, my question is the following. You mentioned the absence or perhaps weak development of city administrations in developing global south, whatever term we want to use. And my question was, but are we looking at it from the right angle? Because is it necessarily that we have to look at the city administrations as the first actors to act upon, let's say, changes in environmental concerns, city planning overall, or are there perhaps also other more societal processes that may be as relevant or as important as, let's say, what city administrations do? So I think, you know, in a European context, we're very used to cities and city administrations taking the first responsibility in acting out certain changes in a society. But of course, you know, this kind of administrative level and the funding to go with it is often lacking or absent in many other contexts. Then the question is, what are the alternatives? So rather than staring blindly at what is not there, let's stare at what is there. That would be, I'd be happy to have a comment from you on that.
this is true that it is a challenge in developing countries, because very often they not only they don't have the capacity, but they don't know how to address it, and it's not even sure that it's their responsibility to do it. I agree. But it's actually our role to show that local governments are instrumental in the fight against climate change. So even if they don't see it, we think it is still a valid approach to encourage local governments to take that step and to provide them with the tools and the structure to do so, because the population is impacted there, and it's the responsibility of local government to protect the population. I understand that in some countries there is also a cultural aspect to it, maybe, and this is why it's also very difficult to have their commitments sometimes, because it's not something that they deem important, or because they think there are other priorities, or they think that it should be addressed by the central government, and we have to take that into account. But in our perspective, what we can see on the ground is that for those who are decide to address climate change at the local level, there is a strong improvement, not only environmental but also economic and social improvement. So we're trying to replicate that, because that's what we witness. And when local governments come to us to say, now we would like to, we have identified the problem, we know it's probably related to climate change. What do we do? What kind of tools do you offer? And we can show them successful examples or successful cases where it actually worked, even in the context has to be assessed. But we are quite confident that this is a right way to go.
Good morning. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was a good overview about the needs of local governments with regard to climate change. I would like to ask you, what do you think is the role of universities and academia in order to meet the needs of local governments?
Well, that type of event is exactly the type of initiative that academia should take more often. I mean, if you want to adapt your program to the needs of a sector, then you have to get in touch with that sector. So inviting us here is really the perfect thing to do, and we regret sometimes that it's not often that university do that. I see that on a personal level. I saw that as well. That we can change, and now I have to use those skills. Some are simply, I'm just not using all the skill sets, and there are some gaps as well. So, yeah, I guess observation and contact with the sectors can be done. Now, to adapt to specific regional context, it is very, you have to enter a discussion with those local governments, but very often they don't even know exactly what they need. They have identified the problem, but they don't really know how to address it. And this is the question we have very often. We have identified the problem, we don't know how to address it. So it's very, very difficult discussion, and universities should be leading the discussion, because they should give some context. Say, is it something you need? Should we go this way? Should we go this way? And then the city would answer. The city are not in position to what is inside.
Looking at the time, we may have one short question. If not, thank you for your presentation, pointing to the contexts to account the differences and that there is no generic solution, generic approach. So thank you very much for your presentation. Yeah. And then I would like to invite Martine van Velen to give her presentation again. I did do some Googling, and Martina is working at the Climate, and is it KIC, or do we pronounce it KIC? Climate KIC. It's the, at least that's what they state, Europe's largest public-private innovation partnership focusing on climate change, consisting of companies, academic institutions, and the public sector. So again, very of a multi nature, and that's I think very interesting. It's one of the 3 knowledge and innovation communities that were created by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. Martina herself, I think, has a very interesting background. She's the education lead of the Dutch Center of Climate KIC. She studied industrial design engineering and has a PhD in medical design. It's interesting to, well, talk a little bit how you came into this in this profession. She combines her work at the university with being an entrepreneur, so an interesting perspective, I think, and she has a very high objective to deliver a new generation of change agents and innovative entrepreneurs through education, research, personal support. So I think that's an interesting background to start off with your presentation, where you will talk about from a problem, how to come from a problem to a business opportunity.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the organization for the invitation for this presentation, and I think it's nice. Do you want to do something? There, I will go stand here. Yeah. So it's nice that I can show, in addition actually to your presentation, a more integrated approach. So one of the questions that were answers indeed from how can we involve local communities and universities and businesses together, and I think Climate KIC is well, actually quite successful in doing that. So it's nice that I can give you an overview of that. I will mainly focus on the education part, but because I think that no one knows exactly what Climate KIC is, I will also introduce Climate KIC to you. Let me start. Can you use this one or the other? Oh, this one. Okay. So what I already said, so in Climate KIC, it's a European consortium, and we use an integrated approach to tackle the climate challenges that we face, because we believe indeed that integration is one of the key factors in solving problems, but also innovation and entrepreneurship is something that we really need to solve problems around climate change, because we really need bright and creative brains to solve these problems. And as you can show here, that the innovation pyramid really includes governments and public bodies. It includes business, research, and education. So all of our partners in our consortium are either one of these 4. I have a whole list here, but we have a lot more partners. But just to show you, give you an impression what kind of partners we have. So for instance, we have universities like Imperial College. In the Netherlands, we have Wageningen University, Utrecht University, and Delft University of Technology. We have TU Berlin, ETH Zurich, so all kinds of academia involved. But we also have research partners. For instance, Deltares is here. I can see Arcadis. Do we have some more? Yes, the Institut National de Recherche Agronomique, etc. So we have some research partners also there. Then we have the business partners like Amsterdam Airport Schiphol. We have Bayer. We have DSM. GDF, so all kind of business partners also included, and then we also have some policy partners included, like the Ministry of Economy in Valencia. We have the province of Utrecht in the Netherlands, so also some local governments are included. Here is a picture where our regions are and centers are positioned. So we have actually 5 what we call CLC, so co-location centers, where the main innovation and research really takes place, which is in London, UK, it's in the Netherlands, it's in Berlin in Germany, in Zurich in Switzerland, and also in France, in Paris. Then we also have regions like that we call the RICs, Regional Innovation and Implementation Communities, and those are more in the eastern and southern parts of Europe. So we have, for instance, Hessen in Germany, we have Budapest in Hungary, Emilia-Romagna here in Italy, Silesia in Poland, and Valencia in Spain, and also West Midlands in the UK. And they are more like the regions where we implement our innovation. So the innovation and research is done in our main co-locations, and then the implementation is really done in the RICs. The organization of Climate Kick is that we have 3 pillars. We have innovation, education, and entrepreneurship. So in this presentation, I will mainly focus on the education part, but we also have innovation and entrepreneurship. So innovation is more that we, within our large consortium, we have small groups getting together on specific topics, and they tackle for 1 or 2 or 3 years. They will go on a specific research or innovation project and work together on that. And so they want to see whether there's business potential or new ideas or new innovative technologies to tackle climate problems. Entrepreneurship is more the pillar where we really help the startups that come out from innovation and education pillar. And we help and support them to start up and to get their business grow. And yeah, what education I will just tell you a little bit more about. So this is still about the innovation pillar. We have 8 challenges, so 8 themes actually that go from adaptation to mitigation, and also more on the production side, so more on technology side, to society, so more on the social entrepreneurship or social sciences. And there we have within this what is it, square, we have all these themes. So for instance, making transitions happen, which is really an overall theme that covers all themes. We have transforming the built environment, the bioeconomy, sustainable city systems. So they're all themes that we work on within our consortium, so with our partners, linking together on specific themes. This is the entrepreneurship pillar, so I already said, so everything that happens in the innovation pillar and in the education pillar, when we really have an idea, business opportunity where we think, well, this is really good, and we think we should develop it further, then we start with phase 1. So we have 3 phases or stages: stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Where we really help develop the startups to grow and to taking their business further. As you can see here is, as you know, I don't know if you know it, but when you see a company grow, there's always a valley of death. They call it that because that's a phase where they really have to grow if they want to, scale their business. And this is where most of the subsidies stop. So there are many subsidies in Europe that really helps the startup businesses to start. And when it's finally good, then you have the VCs and the business angels to help a company. But there's always in between the value of that, and that's really a period where there's not too many funding available in Europe. And Climate Kick is really there to help the businesses really to conquer this very difficult phase. Okay, then our education pillar. We have a lot of activities that we do. So we have this in the universities that I showed you already, in our co-locations and in our regions. And some of the activities that we do are here. I will go a little bit more deeper into it in a few minutes. But here, for instance, the journey is really our what we call our core products that we offer to masters and PhD students, which is a 5-week summer school during the summer, and they will travel through Europe and see the different contexts of climate change within the countries, and also during the journey they will come up with a new business or a new idea to solve some kind of problem, and then they will work on it in groups. And the journey is open to students from our community. So we have a lot of different backgrounds and different nationalities, so that's very interesting. And during the education we also offer, actually we have a strong alumni group, for instance. So when you have done this journey, you can imagine if you are with a group, it's about 50 students. We have several journeys, but every group is maximum of 50 students that travel for 5 weeks non-stop through Europe. So you can imagine that at the first day they are really like, okay, who are you? And they don't know each other. But after 5 weeks, they are one big family. They really, they cannot live without each other anymore. So saying goodbye is always very difficult. But they want to stay in touch with each other. So that's why actually we have a very nice alumni community where the students still can go together and do a lot of activities themselves. And then we have also what we call Spark. 5 times a year we have an inspirational lecture where we really invite someone from business or government to have a nice presentation, and we broadcast that to all the co-locations that we have. So it's also really like a community event where the students get together, see each other again, and really listen to a very nice presentation, and also have a good discussion afterwards. Then we have also mobility and internships. So students that are in our program, they also have to go what we call on mobility. So during their thesis or their internship, they have to go to one of the Climate Kick partners. We prefer that they go to a foreign country. They can also learn a little bit how it works in another country and do some experiences there. So that's part of the program. Well, we organize a lot of local activities, of course, in all the centers, local centers. And we also have a greenhouse, which is actually, greenhouse is actually what we call pre-incubation phase. So incubation is really when groups of people, most of the time it's after their studies, when they decide, well, I really want to become an entrepreneur or work on an idea, business idea that I have. And in the greenhouse, it's more like an experimental phase before this incubation phase. So they can experiment a little bit with their business idea. They can experiment also a little bit with becoming an entrepreneur. So we offer that also to the students. This is an overview of what we do in education. Here, the funnel that you see is the innovation funnel. So you start with a lot of interesting ideas and sometimes technologies or innovations. And during the funnel, during the process, you finally come up with something that you think is really very good, very innovative, and really has business potential. And then so the output is either a startup, so that students really say, okay, I want to become an entrepreneur, now I have a very nice idea, I want to get started. So they come into our entrepreneurship pillar. Or they say, well, entrepreneurship, really becoming an entrepreneur is not really my ambition. I'd rather go into a nice large company and be a change agent there. So we also call that entrepreneurial, or you can also call it an intrapreneur, where you are inside of a business and there try to change the community or the policy within this company. And we also have some educational products that's come out, like workshops or professional education. In the in the funnel you can see some courses actually that we offer. So we start really with being creative, have ideation. What I already said, the challenges that we are facing in climate change are really very huge and large. So we really need a very creative way of solving this problem. So we use really these creativity techniques to really start the students, to come up with some nice ideas. Also, the journey is positioned in that phase. When you get a little bit more further, we are more then sometimes at one point there is already an idea starting in their heads, and then we help them. For instance, in the clean launchpad or the lean launchpad, we really help the students to develop this idea further and really make it a feasible business plan. And then, the green eyes I already said, so that's really like the pre-incubation phase, and then actually there it stops. So in most cases we hope that 3 minutes, we hope that the students are ready by then with their studies, of course. So we are not trying to let students be so enthusiastic that they want to become an entrepreneur and not finish their study anymore. So we always say, no, of course you have to finish your study, and then you can become an entrepreneur and come into our entrepreneurship pillar. So indeed here are some other examples of products that we offer. Well, I already said, so we cross boundaries with disciplines and with nationalities. So our students have different backgrounds, because we think an integrated approach is really the way to do it. So we have social sciences, engineering, business, and science. And here, we have, so of course our main activities are based at Europe, so we have a lot of European students, but also students from over the world who study in Europe, like students from Asia or from America. So they are also included. So it's really very nice to have all these nationalities together and also these different backgrounds working together in our programs. What we use as an education method is really this creative circle or process that actually continuously is done during the process. So you can use this model on each phase where the student is within his ideation or within his ID. And it's like, first you listen, so it could be like a problem that someone is telling, okay, we are here in a city and we have a problem with water. So students will see the context maybe and then go there and talk to people who are involved. Then they really can think about it, okay, how can we deal with this problem? They can create a solution, so they really think, okay, well, if we do this, then we have a solution to this problem. And then we also learn them to communicate this to either potential clients or to governments or to research partners. So they also learn how to present, how to pitch, or maybe how to draw something that they can communicate to others. And then the circle starts again, because then they get some feedback from people, they get feedback maybe from potential clients. And then they say, well, okay, it looks nice, but maybe you could better do this, or maybe you should look there. And then it all starts over again. And you can do this 100 of times until you have the right solution. And even if you have the right solution, then you can still continue this loop forever. Now, we also use the business model canvas. Anyone who doesn't know the business model canvas? No? Only one? No one, what is it? Who knows the business model canvas? Oh, whoa. So there's something is wrong here. Okay, so well, this is just a method that you can use for developing business models. And here are actually all the factors that are building blocks actually that play a part into creating a good business model. And it's a very nice tool to use it, because you have an overview actually of your whole business in one yeah, one, what is it, flick of the eye. And you can really, if you change something here, you also have to change something there. So it's all connected, and it's very nice to use. I have a movie, but I think out of time I cannot show you. So yeah. So what I said is that we really start with ideation and creativity sessions, which means that students are really need to get out of their comfort zone, and they have to learn out of the box thinking. And for some students that's really difficult, because what I already said, we have students with very different backgrounds, and that not everyone is comfortable in being creative or doing creative sessions. So we really have to learn the students to do that, and to get out of their comfort zone, and to really use the brains that they have, because we really believe that they are creative and that they have these brains to come up with solutions, but you really have to learn them how to do that. So we start with that. This is an example of the journey. So this is what we did in this summer. All the lines are, we had five parallel journeys running. So one went from the Netherlands to Budapest to Valencia. One went from Paris to London to Berlin. One went from Switzerland to Berlin and back to London again. So it was really very nice to have all these, journeys running. The first 2 weeks are mainly focused on climate science. So we use the innovation projects that our innovation pillar is working on, and we show it to the students. So we say, okay, we have this problem here. Try to come up with the solution, and then so the second 2 weeks, the students really will form a nice business idea, work in groups together, and the final week is pitches. What we say, pitch, party, and evaluation. But actually the party is during the whole 5 weeks, so but it's only the closing ceremony. These are some electives. So we also, in our program, we say we have some electives on entrepreneurship. So it's really additional to their normal studies, that we also offer them some courses that they really learn how to write a business plan, for instance. Well, this is what I already said. So we use this loop continuously during the process. The mobility, indeed, so mobility internship or thesis is mostly at the end of their studies. And then they have the opportunity to either go to partner and do some research there, or work on a business model that they come up, for instance, in the journey at one of our partners. Or if they really have their own idea, which is really very excited and promising, then they can do their thesis at one of our incubators. And then after that, they are, what we say, ready to start up, either as a change agent or as an entrepreneur. So thank you. I think I leave it with this. I think there might be some questions. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Martina. And what kind of a comparison you really give us between your presentation and Lucas' presentation, acting in two different sectors? There are two questions that I have. One relates to the academic side, the academic activities. Who gives the MSCs, who gives the PhDs? Are those your own PhDs? Are those your own MSCs? Are you capacitated to do all the supervision? Or is that about the collaboration you have with the other academic institutions? That is point number one. Question number one. Question number two, in terms of funding, is it your partners who provide that funding, or are the students the ones who meet the full cost of sustaining KIC and also meeting your own cost of doing all this. And maybe you a third one. I did see about the canvas, which I think is an interesting idea. But in terms of the philosophical underpinnings of your program, what orientates you, what you feel you provide that is unique in a way that makes these people daring enough to go and tackle hostile contexts. I didn't see anything unique or you didn't say about what is unique in what you offer that is different from what a normal university would offer, that makes this person graduate feeling uniquely empowered to act. So those three, if you have. The one is to do with, it is the one to do with the funding, yeah.
Okay, to answer your first question, yeah, we are actually in the very luxurious position that we are funded by EU. So all the KICs, climate KIC, we have climate KIC, we have ICT KIC and an energy KIC. These consortia are funded by EU, so EIT is the funding commission to give us the subsidy and the opportunities to offer this program. And especially, I mean, because in our research, of course, the businesses and the other companies, they all pay also for doing this research. So it's only 25% or 25% which is being funded by the EU, and the rest comes from the companies. But in our education, yeah, it's the additional activities that we offer are 100% funded by EU. But of course, the master's program are funded by our university. So we select students from our master studies. So we have selected several masters at our universities that we think are good for this program. So I think in total we have about 100 master studies around Europe where students can apply for this program. So we have an application rounds, and students have to show why they are good for this program. And so yeah, so we offer this program, and it's funded by EU. And then we have the PhDs, and also PhDs are funded. They are also 100% funded by EU money. So I know that it's very luxury that we are in this position, and it's also not like for 3 years. So many programs are only running for 3 years, but we are running really for 6 or even 9 years. So we have now the horizon of 2020 where we can work through to do this. So that's one. Then the unique point. It's interesting that you asked that, because I'm not aware of programs that have this unique opportunity to work together with academia, businesses, research partners, and policies. So I'm not aware of any of these programs, and also not aware that this integrated approach together with this entrepreneurial approach, so that we really teaching our students to be more entrepreneurial. As far as I know, it's not done anywhere, but if you can tell me why it's not unique, then I would be very interested. So can you tell me why it's not unique? I mean, probably where you come from, they do it all the time. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. I have also another provocative question. You said that they should learn climate change basics and things like that before to go to entrepreneurship. But if you look at Microsoft, Apple, or Facebook, they didn't even finish their courses. So perhaps, I mean, in these climate issues, of course, it's very interesting and innovative what you presented, but we may want to be open to something radically new. it's an open question. I mean, but really, we face this problem we've been facing this problem for 20 years, and really, if you look at Kyoto process and things like that, I mean, we are struggling at implementing real policies, and it's good to have KIC to really try to change things. But I was surprised by the fact that you were strict in your presentation. You said no, they are first to follow climate basics, and then they will go to entrepreneurship. So that's.
So maybe you didn't quite understand what I was saying, because we have a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities and offerings during our studies. Yeah. So only becoming an entrepreneur, really becoming a full-time entrepreneur, let's say it like that. Of course, I mean, I'm from education. I'm a teacher. I work at universities, and if I would run a program, say to students that they don't have to finish their studies if they want to become an entrepreneur earlier, they can just stop. I mean, I don't think that would be a good message to them. What we of course do, and we give them all kinds of opportunities to do that, if they already want to start with an idea. So what I already said for in the greenhouse, for instance, which is during their studies, but we offer it as a tool that they can do next to their studies. So we say, okay, you of course still have to go to your studies and also do your homework and things like that. But on the other hand, you can, in your free time, you can work in the greenhouse. We will give you facilitation to work on business plans. We give you funding if you want to make a prototype. We give you all the coaching that you need. We give you all the lectures that you need on entrepreneurship. So we really support them in this phase, yeah, before really become a full-time entrepreneur. So yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, of course, if there would be a brilliant new Microsoft guy or girl in our community, we will not tell them, no, you first have to do your studies. But I mean, yeah, I think it's very obvious that we do it like this. And then again, you said again, it's not that unique. So I really like to hear your stories about all these other things. Yeah.
Martina, thank you for answering the questions in your presentation. And I would like to propose now to have, do we still have 50 minutes, the break? And then okay, so it's 50 minutes, we reconvene, and then we have, from my point of view, an experiment with the Google Hangout presentation. We'll see how it works. So see you in 50 minutes.